So the global bucket I did has two buckets, one inside the other one. You've got a little hole cut in the center with the cup, and it has a little bit of soil in it, and it wicks moisture up through the bucket into the plant, and the plant absorbs it. Works really good until it gets really hot outside, and then by the end of the day it's dry. So as you know, water seeks its own level, so I took some drip irrigation tubing and I made a distribution network, and then I hooked in a clear tube for a siphon, and I silicone puttied around, closing up the gap so that from the other end I can force prime the siphon. And once the siphon is started, as long as the water level remains above a certain point, it will never break the siphon. So I've got this distribution network here feeding all my buckets, which by the way are doing really good. Those Romas are loaded down. I can't even begin to even count. So I have a bigger container of water as a reservoir, and it fills another reservoir that has a float that controls the water level for the whole system. Of course, for this to work, all these buckets have to be pretty close to level so that they don't leak, and they gotta be close enough that they actually fill up too. But you can just follow the pipe. This pipe is always below grade. It's always below the water level, so as long as there's water in the bucket, there will always be water in this pipe. These uprights are higher than the top of the water level will ever get, so the water will never escape. So once you have this thing primed, and you basically do so, excuse me, you take this hose that goes, this is what pushes water into the system. It's underwater down here, and as long as it stays below the surface of water, it'll always have water in the system. You take a garden hose and you put on the end of that under the water, and you force water through this tube. It forces water through this pipe all the way around this closed loop system, and it primes every single one of these feeder tubes. Once they're primed and there's no air bubbles, they create a vacuum, and they all maintain a constant level. Every bucket has the same level of water as the next. And I just gradually lifted them or lowered them until they were just a hair below they have a little drain. You can actually see, I'm just setting this one up now, and I lowered this one because it wasn't high enough, or it was too high, excuse me, and the water level wouldn't be high enough in the bucket. Now I've lowered it too much. You can see a slight drip coming out of there. All I'm going to do is shim that up a little higher, and then it won't drip. But that's proof that the system's working and water is flowing through. While we're at it, I'll show you my raised bed tomatoes. Looks like a jungle in there. My buddy at work says that you can take and put tomatoes closer than 2 feet apart, which is what I recommended to him when he planted his. And I'd like to ask, where would you put another tomato plant in that little jungle? Nowhere. I've got my huge cucumber trellis. Got a little room for growth there, but at the end of the day we'll have 12 foot of cucumbers if they grow up to the top. They're approaching 6 feet now. Here's another one of the bucket systems, and as you can see, I lowered it. It's dripping a little bit too. We're in the leveling stage here, but it dripping is good because that means I can raise it up and stop it, and it is getting a full water level. And this is a black cherry tomato. If you've never raised these, I recommend it. They're delicious and they're pretty. Sorry about the fence. It's kind of hard to see in there, but they make a nice, pretty black tomato. Over here, I got my raised bed cantaloupes. You can see I look kind of funny down at the dollar store buying pantyhose, but I got a pantyhose there to support my cantaloupe. That melon's a little too heavy to support itself now. And here's another one. And I don't see any leak, and this was the, well actually, yeah, it is actually leaking right there. That's good. I try to get all these things below grade so that I can lift them back up. So I can raise this up a hair. I know that it's leaking now, that the water level is filling, so it's good. And this is a grape tomato. As you can see, I've got a ripe tomato that fell off on the ground. I've got tons of tomatoes on there. Somebody want to tell me what these bugs are right here? I have no idea, but there's no super damage to the plant. I'm not really in the mood to spray them, so this grape tomato is so loaded down, and it grew. I put it in this area. This was a big space. Now I can't even get into this space to pick it, and it just keeps on growing. It grows out here and the deers eat it off, and it just keeps on growing. That is one big plant. And then there's my cherries over there. Raised beds are doing pretty good too, by the way. My beans, my okra, my pathetic corn. I don't think it's going to do much. It's got corn on it, but it looks pretty sorry. Another angle of the cucumbers, nice lush green cucumbers. And then all the squash that I can care to eat. It's not going super crazy, but it's putting on enough for me to eat and give away. So that's all I need, right?